Hello, hello everyone. I'll give you a few seconds to joining in. I see Instagram is letting the followers know that I've started a live video. It's been a while since I've hosted one of these, so I'm really excited to be here. So I see the first person has joined, so I'm going to get started. So hello, my name is Wanda Mann. I'm the founder of Wine with Wanda. The only thing I love more than drinking great wine is talking about it. So today is just like pure bliss for me. So why am I so excited today? Well, today is Premier Napa Valley Wine Week. And I have been eyeing this box, holding on to it, waiting for today so I could taste the wines inside and tell you all more about Premier Napa Valley Wine Week, which kicks off this week, and you can learn more about it at premiernapavalley.com. So what is so special about Premier Napa Valley and what's happening this week? Well, let's just start. These are wines that you're not going to find anyplace else. They are very special. Napa Valley winemakers craft their finest, most innovative and creative wines exclusively. And when I say exclusively, I mean exclusively for Premier Napa Valley. Each lot is something special. It's something that the winery normally doesn't make. It's something that will never be replicated. They make it exclusively for Premier Napa Valley. So on top of that, the other kicker is these are very limited production. So we're talking as little as 60 bottles to a maximum of 240 bottles. So these are really special and rare wines. So, you know, holidays are upon us really quickly. So if you have that really finicky, picky wine lover in your life, a bottle of Premier Napa Valley wine is something that will really wow them, because it's not something they can just go and pick up. These are really special wines. But now you can go online this week and you can purchase a bottle. So again, premiernapavalley.com. And all throughout the week, there are activities so you can learn more. So for example, tonight at 6:30 Pacific time, everyone's favorite sommelier, Dylan Proctor, is hosting what they call Napa Valley Sessions. And he'll actually be talking to some of the winemakers, and you'll see the blending process and what the thought that goes into crafting these really unique wines. But today I have the joy, the privilege, you can see I'm really excited about this. I'm going to be talking to 3 Napa Valley winemakers that have participated in Premier Napa Valley, and you can find their wines online at premiernapavalley.com. So today I'm going to be chatting with Paula Cornell of Paula Cornell Sparkling Wine, also Wesley Steffens of Vineyard 7 and 8, and Jim Close of Gamble Family Vineyard. So these are all highly regarded Napa Valley producers, family winery. So again, it's such an interesting story. So it's the wine, the exclusivity, the rareness, and just this really creative project of asking a winemaker from Napa who generally is pretty established in doing what they do to say, for Premier Napa Valley, we want you to step out the box a little, do something that you normally wouldn't do, something that you can't replicate, that you won't replicate, that is just for us. And we get the chance to taste it and purchase it because of Premier Napa Valley Wine Week. And for example, all of the bottles you'll see, so I'm going to show you 2 of them now. Different producers, but all share the Premier Napa Valley label. And they're all numbered. Many of them have a signature. It tells you what the wine is. So again, really something very striking and unique. And I'm going to see if Paula is on, because I'm really excited to taste her sparkling and learn more about why she is involved with Premier Napa Valley. So let's see if we can find Paula. There you are.
I'm sorry about that.
No worries. I always say with Instagram, like, we've become so dependent, but like when it goes wrong, who do you call? There's no one to call.
Where is she? I know she's here somewhere.
Well, Paula, so lovely to meet you.
Well, nice to finally be able to meet you also. I've been hearing so many great things about you, and so I'm glad that we finally get to meet this way.
Oh, thank you. Well, first and foremost, I want to show your bottle, because that's why we're here, to talk about Premier Napa Valley. And I love this. So this is your 2018 Blanc de Noir, something old, something new. So I'm very intrigued by what's in this bottle.
So Wanda, I was trying, this was 17 was my inaugural vintage of my bubbles. Okay. And so I have nothing old to offer. So one day I wanted so badly to be in Premier for one of my first years. And all of a sudden, the idea came to me that with the heritage of my family being in sparkling wine in Napa Valley for so long, I still had some old Hans Cornell champagne. So what we did for that was take the 1986 Blanc de Noir from Hans Cornell and used that as the dosage. So the fruit all comes from Carneros, Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, and then the dosage was old Hans Cornell from pretty much the same area.
Oh, that's fascinating. And we should let people know that your family, you were the first to bring traditional method sparkling wine to Napa. Is that correct?
Right. So my father, Hans Cornell, was the first method champenois maker in Napa Valley. So it was just before all the others. And so I've got some great heritage. So it was really wonderful. And he never had, or the brand never had a chance to be in Premier Napa Valley. So it was great to finally, for me to be able to come to the table.
Great. And so as a winemaker, what does it mean for you to participate in Premier Napa Valley? I always say it's such a leap of faith, right? Because you're taking your art and your craft and you say, okay, you can put your label on it. We're never going to make this wine again. But there must be something very special that you all want to do this.
Absolutely. You have the hope that it is, and you believe in, that it is the best of the best that you have to offer. And that's what I think Premier, the backbone of Premier, is the best of the best from all of our wineries. And you're giving those people that are coming to taste as well as buy a little bit of your heart and soul too. So this truly was a piece of something that really came from the heart. And it was so wonderful when some really great people, the Petroleum Club from Oklahoma City who was the lucky bidder for this. And so was, and a good friend in Napa Valley too. Okay. And I think that's what brings Premier together is all the friendships that all the vintners have.
That's wonderful. So how many bottles did you produce of the Something Old, Something New?
This was just 60 bottles. So 5 cases were produced, and that was it. And that very bottle was the last of any of them that we had. So I'm glad you get to enjoy it.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. And I'm so happy that we're starting off with sparkling because, look, I love sparkling all day, every day, anytime. But definitely we're getting into the holiday season. So I think if you're looking to celebrate something really special with something that's a little bit off the beaten path, but still very high quality, it's in here.
Bubbles are always the way to go. Bubbles go with everything. So it makes you happy if you're sad, and it makes you even happier when times are good. So it's always the thing of choice.
And you know, whenever I talk with a sparkling wine producer, I think it's so important to emphasize that even though the method is the same as champagne, you are expressing your terroir from Napa Valley, and it's your approach. So it's not an imitation, it's something unique and special. And I would love to talk a little bit about the character of a Paula Cornell sparkling wine, and specifically this one.
Well, I believe it has good balance, and the acidity is what I really strived for in all of it, was balance and acidity, because I think acidity really brings all the flavors out, and it's what you really want in a good sparkling wine of that character. But still, you have the fruit, so it has backbone that you can drink it with any course that you care for during the meal, but also enjoy by itself. But most importantly, that it has life and it has good bubbles.
I'm loving it. It has a richness, but mostly it's just graceful, and there's a lot of vibrancy and just a very kind of exuberant wine, but very balanced. And the finish, I've been sipping and sipping, you probably noticed. Really,
thank you. I wish I had a glass in front of me. Yeah, no, it is definitely, and that it has a little bit of weight to it and a little bit of it needed personality. And that's what I think we all want in some of our bubbles too.
So is there a moment of when you create something this special and I can't create it again? Or is it a challenge to think about next time around?
I think it's always a challenge to make. It's always a challenge to make to do. What are you going to be able to do next to top this one off? And so you never know. Might be in the works.
Interesting. So what I love when the Napa community, I just want people to understand, it's known around the world as the premier wine region in the United States. But I think sometimes we forget it's a community. And I think Premier Napa Valley really brings that home, that you all come together to do this and support it.
It really does. And I think we're all champions of everybody, of all of our other vintners' wines. We want them all to succeed and to be shown in a great light. And Premier definitely has Napa Valley shown in a supreme light too. It's a time that I think we show ourselves the best when people come to town and we can show off what we have and the gracefulness of what we have.
So I always love to talk about food a little bit. So since I have you here, do you have a favorite pairing? If there's a consumer out there watching that's like, okay, I'm going to try to purchase this at premiernapavalley.com, what would you recommend that they pair with their something old, something new?
Well, okay, there's no question that salt and bubbles are the best. So I never really prescribed the whole thing about French fries, but oh my God, if you can try French fries with every kind of salt, and they go extremely well with bubbles. So I would say it just proves that it doesn't have to be something fancy. It doesn't have to be a cream-based dish. It doesn't have to have some special cheese that is in some specific region. It can be as simple as getting some French fries or even getting some good potato chips and enjoying those with bubbles, because they definitely shine. So it can be that easy, or it can be something that's very complicated.
I mean, I think you've been spying on me, Paula, because twice a week for me is like champagne or sparkling wine and Netflix, because I put potato chips.
I think we did. We all did a lot of that during COVID too.
Well, thank you.
The other thing we did a lot of was fried chicken and champagne too, and that also goes absolutely excellent.
It works beautifully, and it's true. I think you're bringing home an important point. Yes, sparkling wine, we associate it with these special moments, but make every day a little special by having a sparkling wine. You can create that special moment. So even with your humble potato chips, suddenly it's very ooh la la when you add a beautiful sparkling wine.
You bet.
Well, Paula, this was so much fun. I hope we get to do it in person one day.
I hope so too, and I thank you very much for joining the Napa Valley Vintners.
Thank you. And I'm having a great day. It's starting off very well. Great.
Take care, Wanda. Thank you again.
Cornell. I'm going to show the bottle one more time, but you can learn more at premiernapavalley.com. And I'm going to hope to bring on the next winemaker. Let's see if it works.
Excellent. Take care.
Okay. So, Paul, I think I need you to click the X in the corner of your screen.
Okay.
And then I'll be able to add Wesley. There we go. Wow, this is really a beautiful wine. And I'm always so intrigued by something that's unique and different and has a story. And, Paula Cornell, her family has such a rich history in Napa Valley. I mean, her father being the first to do traditional method wines, that's pretty special. So give me a moment while I locate Wesley. Inviting. Okay. Oh, it worked. Every time it works is like a little miracle for me.
We get better each time, I guess.
Yes. How are you?
I'm good, Wanda. How are you? Nice to meet
good.
you and see you in person, or see you virtually in person.
Yes. Well, so nice to meet you, and I feel like I'll get to meet you a little more through your wine.
Absolutely. I'm liking this. This is good. It's a cold, rainy day here on the top of Spring Mountain, and Paula has me all thinking about French fries and bubbles and fried chicken. That would be pretty good right now.
A little bit of like elegant comfort food, right? You add
Exactly.
that sparkling wine, and it's. So let's talk about your contribution to Premier Napa Valley. So
Sure.
First of all, let's talk about the name of your winery, Vineyard 7 and 8, because I think it's so interesting, but I want you to tell it, the genesis of that name.
Absolutely. Sort of two stories. One sort of goes to my father's background. My father founded this property, and his professional career has always been in finance and around numbers and numerology, and just sort of loves the play off of various numbers. And he did a fair amount of business in the Far East. So you think of numerology, 8 being a good luck number in Eastern culture,
Mm-hmm.
7 in Western culture, sort of this yin and yang of the two. And then my brother and sister don't like this next story, but my father and I do, because his birthday is July 7th and my birthday is July 8th. So,
Ah,
got to have a little
okay.
family fun in it. But
I
no,
love
it's
that.
the whole purpose was, a name that begged the question why, exactly the way it did to you.
Yeah, it's true, because at first I was like, wait a minute, is that a single? No, that's the name of the winery. And then when I
Yeah,
saw the reason, this numbers and this idea of kind of balance as well, which we always look for in a wine, right? So I thought
sure.
it was very intriguing. So your contribution for Premier Napa Valley is Homestead Cabernet Sauvignon. I see it signed by you, which I love.
Yes, the vintners are very good at getting us the labels in our red Sharpie pens so that we can get the label signed before applying.
I love it. So tell us a bit. I know that the
Yeah.
challenge of Premier Napa Valley, you're asked to make something a little bit out of your wheelhouse and something that you normally don't do. So tell us about this.
No, I mean, you touched on it in the beginning too. I think that part of what Premier Napa Valley is so exciting about is, one, for us as wineries and winemakers, it's our first chance to almost present that next exciting vintage to the trade and to the media, and we get on these runs of beautiful vintages in Napa Valley, and as a winemaker, you always have a few of your favorite barrels, or maybe your favorite lots, or something that really exemplifies who you are. And this one, we've done a couple of years, we did this wine called Homestead. And for us, it was about exemplifying a wine that was from a specific part around the house that's on the property here at the winery. And also in a process that we do in barrel fermenting this wine, whole berry in French oak, which is a process that we do more and more every year because of the quality of the wine that comes from it. So I love Premier for the fact that you get to have a little bit of fun in the cellar and show something that is so unique.
Absolutely. And I think it's wonderful also, Cabernet Sauvignon has become synonymous with Napa, but to show the range, that it's not, a one note wine, that
Sure.
it can be expressed in so many different ways. So how would you characterize specifically your style of Cabernet with this wine?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think, when I'm looking at kind of cab that we're trying to make, one, of course, you look at where we are. We're up 2,000 feet up on the top of Spring Mountain. So a climate that naturally is going to be a little bit cooler, a little bit of brighter high tone acids, certainly a bold tannin structure to the wine. But it gives us the texture, the aromatics, a freshness in the wine, density. These are things that we look for. And I think that, in the beginning of Vineyard 7, we always looked at, do we need to look at more blending components? Do we need to look at other varietals? And we always went back to the fact that the beauty of the Cabernet standing 100% alone shows so well up here, and does, as you said, give such a different signature, as compared to a beautiful Cabernet from Oakville. They're two completely different animals. And for us, maybe even a little bit more of a sense or a savory style wine. My background's culinary. I was in the world of food before I got into wine, and so often I look for wine that does go really well with food, and I believe that our cabs do tend to be really good food-centric wines.
Wonderful. So do you have a favorite pairing that with this one, with the 2015 Homestead?
I don't know. I've got a top French fries and bubbles. No,
I know it's a tough one.
I was raised a steak and Cabernet guy. So, I mean, for me, just a really good steak thrown on the grill, with some simple vegetables and a cab sitting on the couch with my wife is a pretty happy night for me.
That sounds great. This wine, I'm listening to you, but I'm also processing it. It's such the balance. There's a richness, but it's not jammy. There's
Sure.
a great acidity. There's some savory notes, a little bit of coffee, a hint of dark chocolate, but it's just all just singing really nicely in the glass. It's just like in harmony. I love it.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that.
Really beautiful.
You want a wine that's going to be seamless across the palate, right? You want something. The fun part of wine, multiple different ways to enjoy it.
So true. And as I was saying to Paula, with the holidays upon us, some of us, might be doing a little more entertaining, or just want to treat ourselves even in addition to buying a gift for someone else. And, you know, this is something that's reachable for many of us, that you can go to PremierNapaValley.com and look for
Yes.
this wine and splurge a little bit, you know, and have
I
something
think
really unique.
I was looking it up earlier. I think the 2015, what you're enjoying there, is in Zurich, Switzerland. Our partner purchased over there, but there looks like there is a link to be able to contact Gregor to be able to acquire some of that. But there's also, for those that are looking for something a little closer to home, I know Gary's Wine and Marketplace in New Jersey and also here in St. Helena has been an awesome supporter, and he has a couple other vintages of our premier wines. So there's a couple
And you
different ones.
raise an important point, you know, for those that are watching. When you go to the Premier Napa Valley wine site, all of the wines are listed. And when you click on that purchase link, it's interesting to see the different ways that you can acquire these wines. So some of them are local, some of them can be shipped to you. Some of them actually require you to reach out to a person. But hey, that's great, because wine brings us together. So
yes,
that's okay. So how many years have you participated in Premier Napa Valley?
Oh goodness, I think we've over a decade.
Oh, wow.
I'm thinking probably, I think maybe 2006 might have been close to our first year.
Okay. So looking back at the first year and where you are now, I imagine the first year is very daunting because it's the first time.
Yeah.
But how is that process for you now when you're like, okay, what are we going to do this time around?
I think there's a similar feeling. It's that excitement of being able to say, okay, what do we get to play with? What do we get to blend? You know, what's something fun and unique? I mean, we were actually, of course, you know, we're at the point of the year that we actually start thinking about Premier 2022 and what sort of wines are going to be getting ready for next year. And for those that have been to Premier, it's definitely a very cab or red wine, red blend centric event. You know, something like Paula's sparkling wine was actually, she's a very popular, not only for the quality of the wine, but, you know, for somebody who's looking for a little bit of a refresher of the palate from all these big, bold, young barrel sample Napa cabs. So we've been cab ever since we've been doing this, except for this next year, we're going to have some fun because we're going to show our estate Chardonnay that we harvested this year, 2021, which will be the 40th vintage from that vineyard. So we figured, hey, it's a really cool story. 40 years, 40 vintages harvested. Let's show the special Chardonnay. So it might it'll be interesting to see how it's received, but we're excited to show it.
Breaking news, everyone! You heard it here first.
But so that's what it's for. Again,
maybe, you know, since you and your dad have your birthdays, you know, have your siblings been able to get their name in any way on any of the other wines that you make?
Yeah, they get complimentary allocations.
Well, that works.
Exactly.
Well, I want to show the bottle again. And again, what I love about this, you know, it's a very simple but elegant look. All of the producers, it's labeled under Premier Napa Valley, and then you have who the producer is and what the varietal is and the vintage and the signature. So it's really just, it's a statement piece as well. But it also, as I said to Paula, just the thought of all of these different winemakers, it's so hard to get people to agree to do things in life, right? But to say we believe enough in this project that we're going to put this label on the wine that we created and send it out into the world, it really shows a lot of trust as well.
Sure. It's fun. It's the love of being able to share something you're passionate about, and this is just another fun way to do it.
Good. Well, thank you so much, Wesley. And yes, I saw that you went to the Culinary Institute of America, so I can only imagine the wonderful meals you're whipping up at home with these wines.
Probably not as much as my wife would like these days, but at least I always make sure that there's wine in my hand.
Okay, that's well. Cheers and thank you.
Cheers to you. Thank you. Happy holidays.
Take care. Happy holidays. All righty. So that was a lot of fun. So once Wesley clicks that little X in the corner, you know, this is all right. I don't want to jinx myself. So last but certainly not least, we have Jim Close from Gamble Family Vineyards, and here we go. Give me just a second to send a request to Jim. Oh, he's right there. Invitation sent. Okay, just waiting for Jim to join. But you know, it's just so interesting. I think sometimes we forget that. Oh, hello. Oh, okay.
Hi, Wanda.
Someone is in a very stunning setting.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Yeah.
Oh, the challenge sometimes with the beautiful outdoor settings is that we get bad Wi-Fi. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Because you're
do
fading
we have
in
bad
and out.
Wi-Fi now?
It seems to be working right now.
Okay. Well, just let me know if it goes away again.
All right.
All
Well,
right.
Jim, so lovely to meet you.
Likewise.
And I have here your 2017 Paramount Barrel Select Red that you created for Premier Napa Valley. So do you want to tell us a little bit about what you created?
Sure. So as you've already discovered from talking to Wesley and Paula, the winemakers are very passionate about making these special lots for Premier Napa Valley. And it's almost an embarrassment of riches because we're just making 5 cases for Premier Napa Valley, so that's less than half of 1% of what we produce every year.
Okay.
So it's like you have the option to choose and make whatever you want. You can pick and choose the very best bits from different barrels to come up with something special for the event. So what we did in 2019 auction, but it was a 2017 vintage that you have in front of you, I believe. We decided to make a version of our Paramount wine. So we do a Paramount wine, which is a blend of Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Merlot, and Petit Verdot regularly. So what we wanted to do was elevate that even further and just make it simply from our Oakville vineyards.
Oh.
We have 17 acres behind me right here by the winery, and then there's a little 4-acre vineyard about a mile or so away that's on a knoll top called Family Home, which is where Tom Gamble grew up, and his mother still lives there. So it's a very different soil. So I'm very lucky. I have some excellent fruit from Oakville.
Wonderful.
And some different locations, different characters. So this is. I went back and looked at my notes for this wine, and even though it's only 5 cases of wine, there's 11 different components within this wine. And we went down to the specific barrel level, so every new barrel puts a different flavor, a different influence onto the wine. So we went through and chose, like, this is our favorite Cooper for this particular lot. Okay. So let's choose a couple of gallons out of that barrel, a few gallons out of this barrel, et cetera, and then just kind of wove it together to hopefully make a wine that we're very proud of.
And let's talk a little bit, sometimes we have a mixture of people watching. So sometimes I find, new wine drinkers, the concept of vintage is sometimes not always easy to grasp. So will you describe 2017 as a vintage for someone who might be watching?
It's kind of interesting because there's definitely vintage variation. It's interesting to look at vintages. Mm-hmm. But being as we are making wine here in the Napa Valley, I don't know if you can tell from my voice, but I originally grew up in England. There are vintage variations, but the truth is, more often than not, Napa has excellent vintages. Mm-hmm. We're not at the vagaries of the weather to quite the same extent that other parts of the world are. However, and so you'll find, you can make generalizations about vintages, but you'll find that different producers have strong years even when
True.
The neighbor did. So, but 2017 was an excellent year. Concentrated fruit and a nice sort of consistent growing season. It was a really nice. The cellar was packed full of excellent wines to choose from for this particular blend.
Wonderful. I love, so you're from England, and I believe you've been with Gamble family from the very beginning, correct? As the winemaker?
Right. Yeah, I've been working with Tom Gamble for a long time, but we started under the Gamble Family Vineyards label in 2005. So I've been working with him for a long time now. Yeah. I get to work with some excellent fruit, and I also get to make wines that I'm passionate about because, fortunately, Tom Gamble, Colette Gamble, and my palates are very similar. So we can. And Tom loves to make blended wines. I love to make blended wines. So even when we have a single vineyard wine, we'll still pick that vineyard 3 or 4 times, make 3 or 4 different wines, and then just figure out how to blend them back together. So, and we don't go for the, I don't know, every single winemaker will say they make balanced wine, but it really depends what your interpretation of balanced is, because everyone's subject. It's a valid term, and yet it's very subjective about what you consider balanced.
Very good point.
And going back to what Wesley was saying, I mean, we also try very hard to make wines that go well with food, and that will have enough structure, acid, tannin, that they will age well. But of course, that if you have a glass of it on its own, it's still very delicious and palatable at the same time. So it's about getting the right sort of tannins, having moderate alcohol, good acid balance, and trying not to be too over the top in any one direction, so that hopefully the elements weave together and give you a cohesive wine.
That's a beautiful explanation, and I'm so glad that you've touched on the process, because I would love for people to understand that, you know, Napa Valley is such a globally known region and a brand, but this isn't just about putting a label on a bottle that says Premier Napa Valley. It's about each of you winemakers going through this really painstaking and methodical process to create these wines.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you mentioned that it's
well,
not.
I think it is it's as you pointed out, we all put under the same label. It gets wrapped in this beautiful tissue wrap as well. But so it's a very collaborative thing where virtually everyone in the valley is contributing and making these very small lots of wine for Premier Napa Valley. And yet the flip side of that, there's a healthy rivalry, pride between winemakers, that you really want to put your best foot forward, because your peers and the communities coming together and the trade coming together and tasting everybody's wine. You want to do your best, you know. So it's we really do try hard to make it as good as we can. And even here at the winery, I don't make the wine on my own. I have a great winemaking team that I work with, and then Tom Gamble himself. So we spend a lot of time on blending trials and figuring out how to really come up with something that we're proud of. And as Wesley pointed out, it's often the first time that the trade has seen that specific vintage. So it's really sort of showcasing what you've got to come from that vintage, because we pour and auction these wines before we bottle them, and then we'll bottle them later in the year, and so it's a real, you kind of have to see into the future at the time that you're putting these things together. So it's actually nice for me to revisit this, because normally we send all of the wine out to the winning bidder, but we always keep a couple of bottles in case there's any sort of damage or breakages during labeling, etc. So you have one extra bottle and I have one extra bottle, so
lucky.
So I'm enjoying going back to it as well, and I'm happy with the way it turned out.
I love it. You know, so I have to ask, growing up in England, did you encounter wines from Napa when you were growing up, or did your family drink any Napa wine?
Not so much, to be honest. When I was growing up, there weren't too many. It was sort of more of the larger volume wines that you would see here and there. It's nice, you know. There was a lot of white zin and that kind of thing, but
yes,
which can be delicious too. But they didn't really have the depth on the wine shelves in England at that time for Napa wines. No, being so close to France, etc., there was much more sort of European influence.
So I have to ask, what's your favorite pairing? Since I asked Paula and Wesley, what would you like to pair with this wine in terms of food?
Well, I always have trouble with this question because I don't actually eat meat, and obviously this is probably goes very well with me.
Interesting.
But I'm going to say an Impossible Burger.
Well, there you have it. Something for everyone.
Or just on its own.
Burger. Or like a nice portobello mushroom type burger, or a mushroom risotto could be really delicious, I think. Yeah. This wine has a lot of texture. I like it. It really is. Sure. It's very intriguing. Every time you sip it, there's like another level kind of revealing itself.
It's a blend of, as I was saying, it's about 35% Cab Sauvignon, which gives you kind of like the structure and the backbone. 35% Cabernet Franc, so you get a little bit of the spice, the red fruits coming through. 25% or so of Merlot, so you get some of the plum and richer texture.
Okay.
And then just a little bit of Petit Verdot, because Petit Verdot can be quite a powerful influence on a wine, but it kind of adds a little bit of floral cherry cola kind of, and a bit of nice structure as well.
Yeah. Really
so
intriguing blend. Well, I want to thank you, Wesley, and I'm going to show the bottle again. So again, for those of you watching, if you go to PremierNapaValley.com, this is Premier Napa Valley Wine Week. You can go online, scroll through, you can search for this one. I mean, there's so many to choose from, but you can purchase these wines that will never be replicated. Truly limited production. Few of 60 bottles, no more than 240. Great Christmas gifts, holiday gifts, you know, it's just something for yourself. I'm a big believer in treating myself. So really go to the website and learn more. And there are actually events happening online and in person, and all of that is on the website as well. So thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Wanda.
Thank you, Jim. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. PremierNapaValley.com. Bye.